Jason Statham isn't the type of man who talks just to hear his own voice. For more than 2 decades, he's built his career on silence, grit, and precision, letting his fists, his stunts, and his icy glare do the talking. He's the guy who dives headfirst off skyscrapers, dismantles villains with a single stare, and carries entire films without ever raising his voice. Which is exactly why, when Statham finally broke that silence in a way no one expected, the internet nearly stopped breathing. In the middle of a polished, internationally streamed interview, the famously stone-faced action star did the one thing Hollywood actors almost never do. He named names. Not subtle digs, not cryptic shade, but direct, unapologetic truth. Jason Statham sat back, crossed his legs, looked straight into the camera, and called out 5 actors he doesn't just dislike, but openly hates. It was the kind of revelation that made headlines across the globe. Fans refreshed their screens, texted friends, and asked the same stunned question. Did Jason Statham really just do that? Yes, he did. And in one explosive moment, he shattered the unwritten Hollywood code of endless praise, exposing a side of the industry most stars are too afraid to admit even in private. At first, the setting couldn't have been more ordinary. A European press junket, the usual glossy posters lining the backdrop, the polite shuffle of journalists waiting for their turn, and Jason Statham sitting in a dark tailored suit that almost seemed to glare at the camera for him. The man looked as unshakable as ever, calm, composed, a steel presence in the middle of Hollywood polish. Nothing about the moment suggested controversy was about to erupt. Then came the question. It was harmless, almost boring, the type of thing actors hear every day. What kind of dynamics did he prefer on set? Most celebrities would have rattled off a predictable line about professionalism, teamwork, or how every actor brings something special. But Statham leaned forward, his jaw tightening slightly, and delivered something no one expected. I like people who show up, people who don't make it all about them. Professionals. You know what I mean? The interviewer smiled, ready to move on, but Statham wasn't finished. His eyes locked on the camera, his voice steady and sharp. There are actors out there who I've worked with, or almost worked with, who I absolutely can't stand. Waste of space, some of them. Hates the word. And I don't care if that makes headlines. Let it. The air in the room shifted. This wasn't a slip. It wasn't drunken gossip whispered in a bar. It was Jason Statham, one of Hollywood's most disciplined stars, breaking the industry's biggest unspoken rule: never name names. And then, with the calm precision of a man who'd been waiting years to get this off his chest, he started. The first name out of Statham's mouth landed like a thunderclap: Vin Diesel. For hardcore action fans, it might not have been the most shocking pick, but hearing it said aloud was something else entirely. These two weren't strangers. They'd shared the screen in one of Hollywood's most profitable franchises, Fast and Furious. On paper, the pairing looked like a dream team. In reality, it was a collision waiting to happen. Anyone who followed the Hobbs and Shaw press tour could sense the cracks forming. Statham and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson had an easy banter, a natural chemistry that felt genuine. But Diesel's absence was impossible to ignore. When he did show up, the tension in the room was heavy enough to cut with a knife. Fans noticed it, journalists noticed it, and now, with one blunt word, hate, Statham confirmed everything the whispers had been hinting at for years. He didn't stop at naming Diesel either. He explained why. According to Statham, working with him was like being trapped in a constant battle for control. Diesel would arrive late, demand rewrites, and push for scene changes designed to inflate his character's status as the unchallenged alpha. It wasn't just unprofessional, it was disrespectful. It was like working with a teenager trapped in a bodybuilder's body, Statham said, his tone flat, his expression unflinching. For a man who values punctuality, discipline, and precision, Diesel's antics weren't just irritating. They crossed a line. To Statham, the craft of filmmaking was sacred, a job to be done with efficiency and focus, not a playground for ego trips. The revelation confirmed what so many had suspected, but Statham's cold delivery made it sting in a way no rumor ever could. And just when fans were still reeling from that bombshell, he leaned back in his chair and dropped a second name, one no one in the room was expecting. If Vin Diesel felt like an obvious pick, the second name came straight out of left field: Shia LaBeouf. For a moment, the room went silent. As far as the public knew, Statham and LaBeouf had never even shared a film set. Their careers had run on parallel tracks, one known for raw, practical action, the other for intense performances and unpredictable behavior. But as Statham explained, the clash had happened before cameras ever rolled. According to him, they had been in talks for a project years earlier. The studio was excited. Statham wasn't. He told them flat out that LaBeouf wasn't the right fit. Word got back to Shia, and that's when things spiraled. Statham described receiving a message that was anything but professional. He never revealed the exact words, but given LaBeouf's history of public meltdowns and volatile outbursts, it didn't take much imagination to fill in the blanks. For Statham, it wasn't just about one bad exchange. It was about principle. "Some people want to be tortured geniuses," he said, his voice carrying a mix of irritation and disbelief. "I just want to get the job done without someone throwing a tantrum in their trailer." It was a sharp reminder of the divide between actors who treat the craft as work and those who wear chaos like a badge of honor. The admission painted a picture of two men who could never coexist on set. Statham with his obsession for professionalism and order versus LaBeouf, who often blurred the line between art and self-destruction. To him, there was no contest. The project fizzled, and Statham walked away without regret. But the intensity in his delivery, the frustration that seemed to resurface as he spoke, hinted at how deeply that interaction had bothered him. If Diesel represented the clash of egos, LaBeouf represented everything Statham despised about Hollywood indulgence. And before the shock could wear off, Statham moved on to a third name that made the audience actually laugh out loud. The third name drew an audible reaction from the room: Steven Seagal. Some laughed, others just shook their heads. By the time Statham said it, Seagal's reputation had already nosedived from mysterious martial arts star to something closer to a Hollywood punchline. But hearing Statham call him out so bluntly was still a moment no one expected. For Statham, this wasn't just personal, it was philosophical. He had spent years honing martial arts and performing his own stunts, building his career on authenticity. Seagal, on the other hand, had built an empire on spectacle. "I trained for years in martial arts," Statham said sharply. "He turned it into a pantomime. He's a joke, walking around like he's the second coming of Bruce Lee. Except Bruce Lee actually did the work that line cut deeper than any tabloid rumor. It wasn't gossip, it was a dismantling of Seagal's entire legacy." Statham wasn't attacking a man, he was attacking what he saw as fraud. To him, the action genre wasn't about pretending, it was about grit, skill, and showing up every day to do the work for real. Fans of old-school action films could feel the weight behind those words. Statham had cut his teeth in Guy Ritchie's gritty crime dramas, roles where authenticity mattered more than gloss. Even in his biggest Hollywood blockbusters, he brought that same commitment to realism. Seagal, with his bloated theatrics and questionable off-screen antics, represented the exact opposite. What made the moment sting even more was the way Statham delivered it. He didn't raise his voice, he didn't crack a smile. He spoke as if he were stating a fact, not an opinion. And in that calm, surgical tone, Seagal's decades of myth-making collapsed with a single sentence. By now, the audience understood this wasn't a one-off vent. Statham was on a mission, peeling back Hollywood's layers of illusion one name at a time. And if Seagal was the easy target, the next name hit much closer to the bone. A respected Oscar winner whose off-screen methods had rubbed Statham entirely the wrong way. When Jason Statham dropped the fourth name, the room went still. Jared Leto. Unlike Seagal, this wasn't an easy target or a fallen star whose reputation had already crumbled. Leto was respected, an Oscar-winning actor with undeniable talent. But he was also infamous for something Statham had zero patience for: method acting pushed to the edge of absurdity. The two had nearly worked together on a thriller that never made it past pre-production. According to Statham, Leto walked into the first meeting as if he were auditioning for sainthood. He refused to break character, wouldn't shake hands because it was out of character, and even insisted on being addressed only by his role's name. All this, Statham pointed out, wasn't happening on a film set under lights and cameras. It was happening in a casual coffee meeting. Statham, who values efficiency and directness above all else, wasn't amused. "It's like, mate," he said with a dry smirk. "We're in a coffee shop. Relax." His delivery was sharp, almost mocking, but it carried a truth about the clash of styles between the two men. Statham thrives on discipline and authenticity, while Leto thrives on immersion and theatrics. For Statham, the issue wasn't talent. He never denied Leto's ability on screen. What he couldn't tolerate was the ego that came with it. "I don't care how good you are," he said firmly. "If I've got to babysit someone's ego just to make a movie, I'm out." The jab cut through the myth of Jared Leto's mad genius reputation with surgical precision. It wasn't just criticism, it was rejection. Statham wasn't interested in excuses, quirks, or artistic justifications. He wanted professionalism, plain and simple. And by the time those words settled, fans were already holding their breath. If Statham was willing to go after Leto, who would he dare name next? The answer was the biggest shock of all, a co-star from one of his earliest Hollywood hits. The fifth and final name was the one that detonated the internet, Mark Wahlberg. Unlike LaBeouf or Leto, this wasn't about a project that fell apart. Unlike Siegel, it wasn't about philosophical differences. Wahlberg and Statham had actually worked together back in 2003 on The Italian Job, a slick ensemble heist film that became a cult favorite. At the time, fans thought nothing of it. The movie came and went, leaving behind nostalgia and the sense that everyone on screen was enjoying themselves. But according to Statham, things behind the camera were very different. He described Wahlberg as the kind of bloke who walks into a room and makes everything about him. On set, he was constantly cracking jokes, pulling focus, and forcing the crew to wait while he took promo calls for his burger chain or business ventures. What irritated Statham the most, though, wasn't the distractions. It was the posturing. Wahlberg leaned hard into his Boston tough guy image, carrying himself like a street brawler even when the cameras weren't rolling. Statham, who had built his entire career on discipline and realism, wasn't impressed. He pointed out the contradiction between Wahlberg's tough guy persona and his polished Hollywood lifestyle. "He plays it up like he's still in The Departed," Statham said coldly. But then you see him flying private to speak at some business seminar about his supplements line. "Spare me the working class routine." The bluntness of his words left no room for spin. Wahlberg wasn't just another difficult co-star, he was, in Statham's eyes, a walking contradiction. And the fact that Statham had carried this impression for years, only to unleash it now, made it sting even more. With Wahlberg's name, the list was complete. 5 actors, 1 interview, and a tidal wave of fallout. But what made the moment legendary wasn't just the names themselves, it was the way Statham delivered them. Calm, precise, unapologetic. No excuses, no hedges. Just raw honesty in a business built on illusion. What made Jason Statham's list so seismic wasn't just the names he dropped, it was the act itself. In Hollywood, there's an unwritten rule that actors live by: praise publicly, vent privately. Red carpets are filled with forced smiles, interviews echo with recycled lines about how everyone was a joy to work with, and disagreements are buried under layers of publicists and PR spin. The illusion of harmony keeps the machine running. Statham shattered that illusion in one sitting. He didn't hint, he didn't sugarcoat, and he didn't bother with the usual caveats like, "but he's a great actor," or "we had our creative differences." Instead, he cut straight to the truth as he saw it. His words were delivered with such surgical precision that they left no room for misinterpretation. It wasn't gossip, it was a reckoning. Each name he called out represented a larger truth about Hollywood itself. Vin Diesel symbolized the clash of egos that often boils beneath the surface of blockbuster franchises. Shia LaBeouf embodied the chaos of actors who confuse personal demons with artistic genius. Steven Seagal stood as a warning against inflated myths and the collapse of authenticity. Jared Leto exposed the extremes of method acting when taken too far, and Mark Wahlberg revealed the hypocrisy of manufactured working-class images. It wasn't just a list of grudges. It was, in a way, Statham's manifesto, a statement about what he believed filmmaking should be: disciplined, professional, and stripped of pretense. For fans, it was intoxicating to hear. For Hollywood insiders, it was terrifying, because if someone like Statham, stoic, respected, and famously private, was willing to say this out loud, it made people wonder how many others were holding back similar truths. The interview didn't just rattle a few egos, it cracked the carefully maintained facade of Hollywood itself. And what Statham revealed next wasn't about individuals, but about the industry's culture as a whole. The truth is, Jason Statham's outburst wasn't just about 5 actors, it was about Hollywood itself. For decades, the industry has thrived on illusion, crafted smiles on red carpets, glowing tributes at award shows, and sound bites designed to smooth over even the ugliest conflicts. Behind the scenes, tension might be boiling, but in front of the cameras, it's all so talented and an absolute pleasure to work with. Statham's candor cut through that like a blade. In one interview, he reminded fans that the world they see on screen is built on carefully constructed lies. The handshake photos, the cheerful behind-the-scenes stories, the camaraderie the studios like to sell, it's all theater. The reality is that even the biggest stars often can't stand each other, and grudges can last for decades. His comments also raised a bigger question: how many more actors secretly feel the same way? How many A-listers walk onto a set with silent resentment, grit their teeth through co-star interactions, and count the days until filming wraps? Statham may have been the first to put it on record so bluntly, but he's almost certainly not the only one. In a strange way, his honesty felt refreshing. Fans are no longer satisfied with Hollywood's perfect, polished image. They crave authenticity, raw emotion, and real talk from the stars they idolize. And for once, an actor delivered exactly that. Not a staged rant, not a publicity stunt, just cold, surgical truth. The shockwaves weren't only about the names he revealed, but about the courage it took to break the code. By saying out loud what so many others only whisper in private, Jason Statham became something rare in Hollywood, brutally authentic. In the end, Jason Statham didn't just drop 5 names, he dropped a hammer on Hollywood's biggest illusion. In an industry built on rehearsed smiles and carefully managed reputations, he tore off the mask and spoke with a bluntness that left no room for spin. Vin Diesel, Shia LaBeouf, Steven Seagal, Jared Leto, Mark Wahlberg, each one represented more than just a personal grudge. They were symbols of the chaos, ego, and fakery that Statham has no interest in entertaining. What made the moment legendary wasn't only who he called out, but how he did it. Calm, direct, unflinching. No apologies, no soft landings, just truth delivered with the same precision he brings to every punch on screen. And maybe that's why it resonated so deeply, because for once, fans weren't watching another polished PR performance. They were watching a star risk his image to say what so many already suspected. It leaves us with a bigger question. How many more stories like this are out there? How many actors smile for the cameras while privately seething at the very people they're forced to share scenes with? Statham may have only said 5 names, but his honesty hinted at something larger, that Hollywood's endless charm is just a thin layer of paint covering cracks that run deep. 1 man, 5 names, no regrets. In that moment, Jason Statham gave us something Hollywood almost never does: authenticity. And maybe that's why, long after the shock wears off, this interview will still be remembered, not as gossip, but as a rare, unfiltered glimpse into the truth. And now it's your turn. Do you think Jason Statham was right to expose these names, or reckless for breaking Hollywood's code of silence? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's start the debate. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed this deep dive, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next story that Hollywood doesn't want you to hear.